Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did, so let's get started. Number 5 was The Menu, making $1.6 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $32 million and a worldwide total of $60 million. So The Menu continues to have very strong legs. It once again had the best hold out of any of the films released in the top 5 this weekend, which is impressive to say the least. And because of that, the film was not only able to surpass its initial budget domestically, but also double it worldwide, which is pretty much the best case scenario and the best thing anyone was hoping for with this movie. And the fact that they were able to do it despite very stiff competition and things that definitely should have held it back, it beat those odds and was able to surpass these milestones, and I couldn't be more happier for the film. The fact that this little political satire, horror, thriller, comedy, you name it type film really was able to have the strong staying power and the word of mouth to help get it to where it needed to do. So in order to be a box office success is quite outstanding, and I'm sure everyone is very happy with how well this movie has done, who worked on it and who saw it and really liked it. It will be interesting to see where it goes from here on forth, as well. Look how much money the movie's making right now, and given the number of movies coming out this weekend, I feel like this may be the last time we will see it in the top 5, and I feel like it'll probably start slowing down a bit after this weekend, but that's not to disparage its success. It was still a pretty decent hit for itself. The fact that it cost $30 million and was able to double that worldwide is outstanding, and it will be able to leave the top 5 as a box office success. So once again, good job, The Menu. You were able to become quite the sleeper hit at the box office. And hey, at least it was in a better position than the number 4 film, Strange World, making $2.2 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $33 million and a worldwide total of $56 million. As much as I really don't want to be harsh on this movie, as I clearly have stated before that the film deserved way better than this, despite it being a pretty okay movie, and even with its pretty strong hold after its second weekend, it actually held very well this weekend, just dropping 42% from the previous weekend, which, you know, is something, I guess. But the fact of the matter is this film is just not resonating with audiences, despite it being pretty much the only family film out right now in theaters, and not only that, being from the biggest family film department in Hollywood, Disney. This should have been a slam dunk, but no, not at all. It just had everything going against it, sadly. Poor marketing, poor word of mouth, and decent reviews, which have shown that for a Disney movie, that is not going to cut it for some people. And given that there is a new animated film hitting theaters this week that we'll discuss much more at the end of the video, but yeah, given that's coming out this week, that's going to steal all of this film's audience, and this movie's just gonna tank harder. It's still nowhere near its initial budget worldwide. It is not even close to surpassing 100 million worldwide, which is quite surprising. This is a bomb if I've ever seen one, unfortunately. It's really only saving grace right now is the fact that it's going to be on Disney Plus later this week, so hopefully by some miracle it becomes so successful on Disney Plus that it's able to make that money back, but I have my doubts given how poor the reception from audiences has been. So oh well, at least Strange World was released in theaters. At least they got it out into the public. It's just that the film did not do as well. Number 3 was Violent Night, making $5.05 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $35 million and a worldwide total of $55 million. So this movie was still able to do pretty well this weekend. In fact, once you'll see in a couple minutes, you'll see that this movie, along with the number 2 spot, actually were very close with one another. In fact, there were several websites and sources saying that it was going to be Violent Night at number 2 and the other film at number 3. But once the actuals came out, Violent Night landed at number 3. But even so, the numbers were so close, and you'll see them in a few. But yeah, this shows how audiences are still kind of resonating with this movie. And what's more impressive is the fact that not only was it able to double its $20 million budget worldwide, but it was also able to surpass 50 million worldwide, which against a budget of 20 million is quite impressive. And the fact that it's also just 5 million away from doubling its $20 million budget domestically, which it should be able to do so by the end of the week. Word of mouth is just doing very well. It's definitely better than what people thought it was going to do, especially with the B+ cinema score rating. But I'm guessing it's a factor of its Christmas movie that's releasing right around the holidays. The movie is also just really good and resonating with people, and it's just great counter programming. I guess you could either see a blockbuster or a movie where Santa Claus just brutally murders people to save a little girl. And I do think this upcoming weekend, despite all the competition, is probably going to be pretty solid weekend for the film, given that it is the weekend of Christmas. Christmas is on Sunday this year, and I think that because, well, this is the only legitimate Christmas movie in theaters right now, I think it's really gonna benefit from that, and a lot of people might just decide to spend their Christmas with David Harbour as Santa Claus. But that's where the downside happens, as just like the downside with Halloween Ends from way back in Halloween season. Once the Christmas spirit has come and gone, that'll be it for the film, sadly. And so I do think it's really only got a couple more weeks left in the tank before it starts to slow down. But hey, it's still got a couple more weeks, and let's see if audiences help it out during those weeks, as so far they've been helping it out a lot. Once again, word of mouth is helping it out. It's already a box office success, and it looks like it during the holidays it's going to continue to do so. So yeah, despite an upcoming deadline, this movie is still on the right path. Good job. Number 2 was Black Panther Wakanda Forever, making $5.3 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $418 million and a worldwide total of $787 million. So given the competition this movie was facing, I thought this weekend would be way worse than what happened, because while it did lose its 5-week run at the champion of the box office, with a sizable drop-off of 52%. When you consider the competition, this is still probably the best anyone could have hoped for this movie. And once again, given how close the number 2 and number 3 spots are with how this movie faced off against Violent Night, it was still able to come on top despite there being roughly a $300,000 difference between the two of them. But anyways, this movie was now officially the 5th highest grossing film of the year worldwide. It has surpassed both Thor Love and Thunder and The Batman, which is a very good sign. It is now roughly $200 million behind Minions: The Rise of Gru. We'll see if it can surpass that. We'll discuss that in a few. But on the domestic side, it has now officially surpassed Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness to become the 2nd highest grossing film of the year. Obviously, it's not going to surpass Top Gun, but, once again, this is the best thing they could have hoped for with this movie. So yeah, while this movie is still doing well, I do believe this will be the start of it slowing down significantly. Just the hype and the buzz for the film has slowed down already, and everyone who wanted to see it has pretty much already seen it, and I don't think it's gonna have the replay value of the first one. Unfortunately, just doesn't seem unlikely. So I think this might be the end of the road for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Not significantly, but like it'll start slowing down. And in regards to like other milestones, there's a chance that it might surpass 800 million worldwide. It is roughly 13 million away from that total, but after that, I don't see this movie getting anywhere. So the Minions probably don't have anything to worry about. But yeah, in regards to everything, this is probably the sign of the film starting to slow down. And all honesty, it did the best it could. It was still a really big juggernaut hit. I mean, it's been the biggest movie of the year so far since probably Thor Love and Thunder, and it has already made more than double its budget. So once again, best thing they could have hoped for, and the fact that they got second place domestically is more than enough, let alone fifth place worldwide. So yeah, while this is probably the sign of things slowing down for Wakanda Forever, it still did incredibly well thus far, and it is not a flop by any means. It is definitely not like Thor Love and Thunder, where it could have done better. Well, it probably could have done better, but it still did relatively well. It did better than what other movies coming out around this time did. And yeah, I think that's more than enough, to say the least. Yeah. And finally, let's end the video off with the number one movie of the weekend, which was Avatar: The Way of Water, opening with $134 million domestically and $441 million worldwide. So let's talk about some milestones the film made first. First off, this is the 5th highest opening weekend of the year, as it was able to beat The Batman by, I kid you not, $100,000, which is insane to believe, I know. But it was also sitting behind Thor Love and Thunder, Jurassic World Dominion, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It is also already the 12th highest grossing film of the year domestically, and it's sure to make some headway into the top 10, maybe even the top 5 in a couple weeks. And worldwide, it is already the 10th highest grossing film of the year, sure to make some headway there in the coming weeks as well. But you've probably heard many people discussing this opening weekend and saying, oh my god, it was so disappointing. It didn't meet box office expectations. This movie is doomed. And I'm going to be honest with all of you. I was honestly expecting this movie to make as much as it did, honestly. Like, let's be realistic here for a second. I wasn't expecting this movie to have a Marvel or a Star Wars opening weekend, and I think that's the wrong state of mind people had with this. They were expecting like something like Black Panther Wakanda Forever or Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker level opening weekends, just incredibly big numbers that would shake the world by storm or something. And when you really think about the benefits this movie had, and there are certainly benefits this movie had, the negatives this movie also had are about on par with the benefits. As well, yes, the marketing was great, people were excited to see the movie, reviews were good enough to say the least, and obviously the re-release of Avatar, the first film, a couple months ago helped out a lot. But also the negatives this movie had, like with it being, a sequel to Avatar, a movie that not too many people remember fondly. Reviews were also just good, not great. And once again, there were those naysayers who just don't care about Avatar and weren't all that interested in this movie. And the budget of the film as well being there is not an official confirmation of the budget, but it is said to be anywhere from $350 to $460 million. There was a lot at stake here, a lot riding on this, and I think those factors, the negative factors, affected the movie the same way the beneficial factors did. I just think that people had way too many high expectations for this movie because, again, it's just the sequel to Avatar. It wasn't as remembered fondly or as groundbreaking as or had as big of an emotional impact with a lot of people as stuff like the MCU or Star Wars. However, this is not to say that the film is doing terribly, because this is just the beginning of its theatrical release window, obviously. And if you're already willing to jump the gun and say this movie's a flop, hold your horses, calm down. We're just in the opening weekend, and we're coming up around the holidays, and audiences right now who have seen it are really enjoying this movie. It got an A on Cinema Score, which is really good, indicates audiences are really enjoying this movie, and I do believe word of mouth is going to help this out tenfold. And it's not like we've been down this road before. There have been many articles in the past discussing James Cameron's previous work and their opening weekend, like with the first Avatar. When that opened to like $77 million in 2009, there were people saying, oh, this movie's a flop. And then look what happened. It became the biggest movie of all time. Or let's go even further to Titanic. When that opened, there were articles and newspaper journalists decrying, oh, this movie's doomed. And that went on to become the biggest movie ever at the time. And so, did this movie come under expectations? Yes. But does that mean this is the end of the story for this movie? Of course not. We are just going to have to play the waiting game. We'll see how well it does over the holidays and even in the coming months, because really, when you think about it, other than a certain animated movie we'll discuss in a second, but also in the coming months, other than stuff like Megan and maybe Knock at the Cabin, there is very little competition this movie is going to face off until Ant-Man and the Wasp in mid-February. This movie has plenty of time to grow and do well, and I'm certain that it's probably going to hold well in the coming months because of those factors, and as well as the fact that audiences just really like this movie. So yeah, did the movie come under expectations? Yes, but this is certainly not the end for Avatar: The Way of Water. We'll just have to see how it does in the coming weeks, hell, maybe even the coming months, to decide how well it does. But yeah, this is definitely not the end of the story for Avatar: The Way of Water. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And like I said earlier in this video, this is the weekend of Christmas. Once again, Christmas is on Sunday this year. Christmas Eve is on Saturday this year. So before we discuss the movies, I just want to wish you all Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Spend this time with your loved ones. Spread joy, love, and cheer this holiday season. And I hope you all stay safe and have happy holidays with your friends, your families, and loved ones. But as far as the movies go, there are 3 new wide releases hitting theaters this weekend. The first we'll discuss is Babylon. This is Damien Chazelle's newest film about the wackiness and absurdities that occurred in Hollywood in the late 1920s. That is, without a doubt, the best description of this movie anyone has ever given. But in all seriousness, this is probably the biggest wild card of the holiday season, as this is obviously the late awards buzz movie, and it's geared towards older audiences with its very hard R rating. And there are ways I could see this movie doing well, as counter programming and, older audiences returning to the movie theaters more often than not. And just, with how audiences and word of mouth help it out, it could be a decent hit at the box office. With even how solid the marketing has been, it hasn't been great by any means, but I've certainly seen promotion for it. But the downside is the fact that there are many negatives about it. First off, reviews so far are very mixed. Critics either really like this movie or do not. That's the best way to describe it. And also, general buzz from audiences is not there. I've seen some people talk about it, but not a whole lot of people that I know. And also, given the fact that it is the holidays, I'm not sure if many people are going to be willing to go check out once. First off, another hard R movie like Violent Night, because that has the benefit of being a different type of Christmas movie, but also another 3 hour long movie like Avatar: The Way of Water. This is a 3 hour movie, and I don't think people will be as willing to go check out Babylon as they will for Avatar. So yeah, this is probably the biggest wild card of the weekend. Then there's I Wanna Dance with Somebody. This is the newest musical biopic based on the life of one of the greatest singers of all time, Whitney Houston. And I gotta be honest, I feel like this has the potential of being a decent sleeper hit this holiday season. In regards to films that are geared towards older audiences, between this and Babylon, I feel like older audiences are more willing to go check this out than Babylon, given that it is a movie about Whitney Houston and the fact that musical biopics have been really doing well, obviously with how successful Elvis was in the summer, but also stuff like Rocket Man and Bohemian Rhapsody, which, funny enough, the writer for that film also wrote this movie, so take that with what you will. The marketing for here has also been pretty solid, certainly better than Babylon for me, and the buzz is quite strong here. I've been seeing a lot more people talk about this movie and interested in this movie than something like Babylon. So yeah, not expecting a blockbuster opening, not expecting something really great, but certainly something that could impress and exceed expectations. And then the last film that's coming out this weekend that we'll be discussing is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Now, out of all the new wide releases, this is definitely going to do the best out of all of them and is the most interesting one, not because it's a sequel to a spin-off of Shrek over a decade since that first movie came out, but also it's because Universal has shown a lot of confidence with this movie, not only with the fact that it is the only new wide release hitting theaters this weekend on Wednesday as opposed to the other two movies coming out on Friday, but also given the fact that they've held early access screenings of this movie a month before the film came out, and the marketing has been excellent. I've been seeing tons and tons of promotional material for this movie, and the promotional stunts they've been doing for this movie have been really good. Like, there was an ad where Puss in Boots does ASMR, and he even had guest appearances on Hot Ones and The Voice. It's all been so great and wonderful. And the buzz with this movie is also really strong. A lot of people I know are talking about this, getting excited to see it, and reviews are outstanding. Critics are loving this movie, as well as people who have already seen it thanks to those early access showings. And it's gotten to the point where it's become one of the most critically acclaimed animated films of the year. It even got nominated for several awards, like a Golden Globe. I think this movie is definitely Avatar's biggest competition right now, even though it's probably not going to dethrone it this weekend. But I do think these numbers between this movie and Avatar are going to be interesting, especially this weekend, given the family holiday. And I think that a lot of families are going to have to choose between one or the other, and given this is much more family oriented than Avatar, I think a lot more families will resort to see this movie. So yeah, overall, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, I have very high expectations for doing well this weekend. Again, not going to dethrone Avatar by any means, but I definitely think it's going to be stiff competition. But we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.